Hi guys, sorry. Technology was just hanging up a little bit for me. So today, like I said, we're going to learn about camber on a vehicle. The camber is the angle, a definition of an angle, talking about the tops of the tires tipped in or out of the top of the vehicle. So as we look at this vehicle here, is the top of this tire tipping outwards or inwards to the vehicle, okay? So that's what we're going to learn about today in basic measurement. So what I wanted to do is you're going to have to get an app. I put this up on I put this on our class last night, so that way you guys can go ahead and try to find an app beforehand. This is rigid. This is the one I use. This way I can see an actual angle number. I don't want one that has just a bubble, because a bubble won't do me any good. Okay, I need to know numbers. Okay, you will also need to know numbers, because this is what you have to do at home. Is you have to do this on all four wheels and measure that camber setup. So let's grab another level real quick. So I have just two levels right here. This is just basic home or shop levels. I grabbed this one at first, but then I realized I'm going to have some issues with the fender flare, okay? So make sure that you get one that can go across. And yes, this isn't the most accurate, okay? We're not on an alignment computer. This is just to take some numbers to see what's going on with our tires, okay? So let me go ahead and switch. Let me go ahead and switch to the other camera, so that way we can talk about tread wear on a vehicle, and so that way we know what it looks like if we walked up to a vehicle. And that's kind of the most obvious of the wears on a car. So let me go ahead and switch over to the other camera at this moment. Okay. So here we're looking at the front passenger side of my Suburban, and let's look at any indication of a camber issue. Okay, so what I'm looking for is worn on this side or this side, because it can be tipped differently. So if the top of the tire is tipped inwards, where would the wear be? Well, it's going to be on this side, because that means that part of the tire on the bottom is contacting more than this side, vice versa. So on a tire, there's wear indicators and such that you'll need to be aware of. So right here, let's see if I can even get the camera close enough. Right there, there's a little bump right there. That's a 3/32 bump. That's a wear indicator. And then there should be some more. Oh, I felt it. There is another one. So when the tread, which I'm cracking, so this tire actually has other problems because it needs to be replaced. When that tread has worn down to that, that tells you that the tire has worn more than it should, okay? So, but we need to look for actual wear on these tires. So this one doesn't have a lot of wear on it, okay? This car actually rolls kind of straight. It does have a toe issue. The front toe is sticking its toe out more, and hopefully you guys can answer that question on the last video. But so in those regards, this would be worn. This would be worn. Now, quick question would be on a car that has a other wear issues or something else that you might see on it. What would it be? What if the center is worn out? Okay, so the center of the tire is worn out. Let me plop that back down there again. It's right here. That center section was worn out. What would that be? Okay, so that's another question you'll have to answer in the Google Doc. Okay, what if it's worn just on the outsides, on both outsides? What does that mean? Okay, so there's two more questions. Okay, if it's worn on the inside, worn on the outside, what does it mean? Okay, But if we have a camber issue, now, will we see a camber issue in the steering wheel? Generally, no. Majority of the time, that is a toe problem. You can, because there's so many different parts in the suspension and in the steering that could cause that. But generally, a camber issue, if it's way drastic, especially if both of them are cambered in the same direction, meaning that this one is cambered out and that side is cambered in, it will cause the car to pull. Which way do you think it's going to pull? So if they're both this way, do you think it's going to cause it to go that way or that way? Okay, so that's question 3. Which way, if they're both pointed off to the right, okay, I know that's reverse to what you're looking at, but if the passenger side was tipped out and the driver's side was tipped in, which way would it cause the car to turn? Like I said, is it going to go towards the driver's side or towards the passenger side? So that's one thing you're going to look up, and you'll learn that when you do the electric assignment. So there's 3 questions you have to answer in a Google Doc. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at the actual camber reading of this vehicle. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to make sure that the vehicle is set up, again, with the steering wheel perfectly level, okay, on garbage bags, so that way I make sure that there's no suspension control, or make sure I back up, pull in, and making sure my steering wheel is level, okay, so that the wheel is perfectly straight, and that way when I pull in, I haven't bound the suspension. I haven't caused any of the suspension or steering components to tighten up, because that can then give you false numbers, especially when you're doing an alignment on an alignment rack. If you have those problems, it's not going to get you all what you need. You need to have those numbers coming up to what you need, okay? So, let's go ahead. I know the steering wheel is level because I did that when I pulled the vehicle up into this area. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab my smaller level. I want to place it up against the tire, plus using my app on the phone to measure the actual angle so that way I get the number. Now I'm going to just do one wheel. So you have 3 questions, and then you have to submit 4 photos. A photo of you measuring all 4 wheels. Yes, you could probably send the same one over and over again, but I can probably figure out which photo it is. So let me go ahead and switch back to the other camera. And let's go ahead and, there we go. So I have my app running, so you can see it's go ahead and reading out numbers. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this, I'm going to set it, and I'm going to try to get the same bulging area. So this way I'm not like this, because obviously I'm going to get a false number because this part is further in than down there. So I'm going to try to get my best. Now, because this tire runs at 32 psi, it has a little bit more bulge here at the bottom than the top. So if you can get something that fits from here to here, you would have a better accurate number. I don't know if I have anything that short. Torpedo level would be perfect. Hey, look at that. That's perfect. So I'm just going to hold that in there with my knee for real quick. Okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my level and I want to set my phone up against it, and I can take my reading. So I'm going to go ahead and just turn it to this side so I can see it better. Okay? So I'm getting a degree reading, so it's tipping outwards by 1 degree. So is that 1 degree good or bad? Well, that depends on the vehicle. Some vehicles, you actually have to have a camber issue on it, meaning that it's designed to have that. So that way when you speed up, that the car will be able to pull the wheel up straight. So if you have a little bit of issue like this, and as you speed up, it's going to come up straight. So that way, that alignment angle will become true. Also, you want a little bit in it. So that way, in something called the steering axis inclination, it will then help the steering wheel go back level. So if you're ever learning to drive the car, it tells you to go ahead and let the car come back to center. So it used to be, don't let go of the steering wheel. So if you just let the car go, you will feel the steering wheel come back. So if there is a bit of a camber, and this more with your caster measurement, but if there is a little bit of a camber as the car's tires turn with the caster, it's going to tip up a little bit. And then as the weight of the vehicle, it will come up. And then as you release the steering wheel to self-center, it will push it back down. This is, once again, more in your caster, but camber does help in that. Once again, these are all parts of the steering and suspension. That's why it's all together in the lessons. So, you saw me, I just sat there. You don't even need a stick. Just take your leveling app. You can put it right up against the wheel. Okay? So, once again, I got 1 degree. Not too tricky. Not a very hard assignment this time. So, once again, you have the electrode assignment to do. So that way you learn more about camber. Okay? You have to take 4 photos of you doing the camber and submitting it all to Google Classroom under the one assignment. I'm not going to create multiples. And then the last thing is a Google Doc answering the questions, okay? Which is the 3 I mentioned earlier. You know, inside tire worn out, okay? The outside of the tires are worn out. So what does that mean on there, okay? So those are the 2 questions. I can't remember the third. All right, so that is all I have. It's once again another quick, short lesson. Please get these things done. Once again, I am going to review them all because it's Easter Sunday on Monday and post grades Monday evening. So that way you have your stuff. And then remember, I will meet with you guys again on Monday for the next lesson, okay? And you'll see that stuff pop up. I'm going to try to keep it a day or 2 ahead of the schedule so that way you see what's coming up and get yourself prepared. So once again, if you have any questions, I will be on Google Hangout if you need me, and I'll answer any of your questions in that regards. Please keep up with your lessons. Do not let these lag just because you can watch them at a later date. All right, thank you very much, and I'll see you guys on Monday.